After 2 straight home losses, the Timbers are tasked with turning it around and moving back above the playoff line. This week, they welcome a familiar Western Conference foe, Real Salt Lake, to Providence Park in an important match in the Western Conference playoff race. Cristhian Paredes is our guest. He joins us in studio, and we show you how the Timbers connected with one of their rivals to help their communities off the field. It's Timbers in 30, and it starts right now.
This is Timbers in 30, presented by AT&T.
Welcome to Timbers in 30. I'm Jake Zivin. It's been a couple of tough matches at home, a pair of losses that have sent the Timbers below the playoff line. The good news, there's still 8 games left. 7 of them will be at Providence Park, and the Timbers have a game or 2 in hand on everybody above them, so they're still in control of whether or not they make the playoffs, but they've got to take advantage of the opportunities starting this weekend against second-place Real Salt Lake. And here ahead of that match with us on Timbers in 30 is Timbers midfielder Cristhian Paredes. Cristhian, thanks for coming on the show. Let's start by looking at kind of the current form of the team. Obviously, the past 2 matches, not the results you wanted. How's the team feeling?
I think the team is really hurt by that. You know, we lost 2 games and just leaves a really bad taste on everybody. But it's time to put that aside and then focus on the next game coming up.
What about your development since you've come as a Timber in the last year and a half? What have you been happy with? What is a part of your game that you still want to focus on to strengthen?
Yeah, I think I was lacking a lot of confidence in myself the previous year, and then this year I've been working really hard, trying to gain that confidence, the confidence of the coaching staff and my teammates, and I think I have accomplished that, so I'm feeling really good about that. I think I need to continue working towards just getting a little bit more into the area and scoring more goals.
Scoring goals, you did that against LA Galaxy. How pleasing was that particular match? Would you say that's one of your stronger matches as a Portland Timber?
Yeah, that was a very special game for me. It was one of those days that I got up in the morning and I called my mom and I told her that I was feeling like I was going to have a really good game. I felt that I was going to score that day. And I feel that that's what happens. Those days when you get up and you feel that you're going to get it done, but then games like the last 2 that we had just leave you a little bit in pain. But gotta just continue working hard, focusing on the objectives ahead and just trying to do the best that you can.
You've been in Portland for a little over a year and a half now, almost 2 years. What do you like about the city, about this area?
I love everything about the city. This is just great. Everything about it is great. The people, they're really nice. They treat you with respect, and it's very relaxed, very calm. And now that we're having this wonderful weather, it feels a little bit like Paraguay. So that's a great thing. But especially the environment, the fans. It's just important for a soccer player to feel like you are somewhere that you can live peacefully.
Your relationship with the city, with the Timbers has worked well. Your relationship with Diego Chara has worked well. Can you give us some insight? How much conversation, how much back and forth with you and Diego when you're on the pitch? How much communication goes on with the 2 of you?
Yeah, I have a really good relationship inside and outside of the field. And we do talk a lot also on both. But during the games, he tells me, just talk to me. And he encourages me to go support our forwards and that he will take care of the defenders. So it's just one of those things that we have an understanding, and it shows. We do it in practice, and then it shows in the games. And he helps me tremendously with my soccer, too.
I was at an event earlier this week with Timbers fans asking questions to Timbers players, and a lot of questions were about the bleached hair on the team. There's a lot of guys like yourself
You're
that
jealous,
have bleached hair. I
bit.
am, yeah. It's not in I'm not allowed to do it in my
It's
contract.
not in your contract.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I think I've got that in mind.
You're allowed, yeah. You fought for that. What's that from, and who started the trend on the team?
No, I think it's just one of those things that it is a personal decision, but it just craziness gets to you, I guess, and then they started all doing it. But in my case, actually, it was my wife who asked me to do it. So when she says that she wants me to do it, I had to do it. You know how it goes. But otherwise, she will just challenge me to something else, and so I had to do it. But no, it was just it's personal, I guess.
Smart man, Cristhian. Let's look to Saturday's match against Real Salt Lake. Here are the Western Conference standings entering the weekend. Just 6 points separate second place RSL from 8th place Portland. The Timbers have a game in hand on everyone above them, 2 games in hand on Dallas, who's in 7th place. This is a massive match in the playoff race. The Timbers on RSL is our Advocare training report.
It looks like they had a little spark. I think, you know, they faced a difficult match last game against Colorado. I think, you know, sometimes calls go your way or the other way. And for them, credit, because, you know, they're a team that has been doing very well. It's been getting good results. It's been believing in the process. They haven't changed the roster much. It's, you know, basically the same guys, but they've been doing very well. And they are always a difficult team to play against.
I think they are a good team. They're a good team. They have been improving a lot. Even if they change the coach, they still shows their quality, and we have to be very focused on the next game, prepare it really well, and try to execute it.
Just stay positive, you know, train hard, work hard, and, you know, like I said before, put that hard work into the game, and, you know, stay positive as a team, you know, have a good chemistry, and I'm pretty sure we'll come back.
Our local Ford Stores look ahead focuses on Real Salt Lake, who are in 2nd place, but just 3 points above 7th. They have an interim head coach, Freddy Juarez, after firing Mike Petke, and they're 4-1-1 under Juarez. They aren't great on the road, 3-7-3, and the Timbers gave them one of their 3 home losses, beating them 2-1 on May 4th in Utah. Ross RSL's coming off a late 2-0 victory over Colorado in the Rocky Mountain Cup last week.
Yeah, big result for them, big results as of late, but it's been very similar style to when Mike Petke was in charge to now Freddy Juarez. And why would it change? The team were doing well enough with Mike Petke, and he was only dismissed for his actions, not because of poor results on the pitch. In the attack, this team can buzz around. I call them busy players because of the spaces they like to get in. They like to get forward as quick as possible. For me, Jefferson Savarino, he's the one to watch. There were rumors a few weeks ago that swirled around Newcastle United's, West Ham, and the English Premiership. They were interested in him. He's dipped a little bit in the last couple of matches. But look, Albert Rusnak, Damir Krylak, Sam Johnson, if he plays up front, there are guys who are surely capable of scoring goals on their day. And at their back, they've been sneakily impressive. They haven't allowed a whole lot of goals, and part of that is with a player, Everton Luis. He's come in the team. He's given almost life to Kyle Beckerman, another year out of Kyle Beckerman's career, and of course Nick Raimondo, the old statesman. He is still very much involved with this team. Tough opponent, but it's one that the Timbers will feel as though they match up well against. Cristhian, this will be the first game in a while where you've had a whole week to prepare. It's been a few weeks of midweek games. How important is that to get the juices back in the legs?
So it's going to be very important for us to keep the 3 points here at home. Being in the standings on 8th place is just not a good feeling, and for that reason only, it is very important that we are able to just earn those 3 points this weekend.
Cristhian, thanks so much for coming in, for joining us on Timbers in 30 this week. Good luck this weekend against Real Salt Lake. Timbers and Real Salt Lake, Saturday night, 7:30 at Providence Park. You can watch the match on Fox 12+. You can listen on the radio on 750 The Game. And following the historic reopening of Providence Park earlier this summer, you now have a chance to see the Timbers in person. Limited availability remains for select matches, so grab the best seats before they're gone. Your tickets, starting at $23, can be reserved at timbers.com. Later in the show, we'll show you why the weekend of the Timbers MLS Cup rematch with Atlanta United was about far more than a game. But first, it's the breakaway, another coaching move in MLS, and U.S. Open Cup final highlights when we return.
Now back to Timbers in 30, presented by AT&T.
We'll look around Major League Soccer and American soccer by beginning with the U.S. Open Cup final on Tuesday. The Timbers were just a goal away from being there. They, of course, lost in the semis to Minnesota. So it was Atlanta United hosting Minnesota on Tuesday. Atlanta United won 2-1. They went up 2-0 early. Minnesota made it 2-1 early in the second half. A red card late for actually Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, and Atlanta had to hang on, but they did, and they won another trophy.
Yeah, it was thoroughly entertaining from the two clubs who entered into MLS in 2017, and you thought that Atlanta United were going to run away with it, but then Minnesota United to score at the start of the second half. They made it an interesting match, and what was most interesting, the big headlines, was manager Adrian Heath in what is arguably the biggest game in club history, bench star Darwin Quintero to start the match. I think he was upset from the player in a previous match and not following assignments. Well, he made a statement, and he almost got away with it. 2-1, and you thought that Minnesota United, many chances near the end of the game. Boxall, the big center back, he's missed this big opportunity here when the ball comes back to him at the death. Wasn't to be. Atlanta United, disappointingly, big time to Minnesota United, getting to host the U.S. Open Cup.
A third trophy for Atlanta United in their third season. The Colorado Rapids have hired a permanent head coach. After 4 months with Connor Casey as an interim, they've signed Robin Fraser to lead the team. Fraser was most recently an assistant at Toronto since 2015. He has head coaching experience in MLS, Chivas USA from 2011 to 2012. Was a really good player as well, two-time MLS Defender of the Year.
Yeah, you hear a lot of great things about Robin Fraser. You don't hear many bad things about the now manager for the Rapids. Just below, you could see with Connor Casey leaves the club. He was given the option to stay with the club in some sort of role, but he's opted to pursue other opportunities, is what he has said. But Robin Fraser now coming in. Greg Vanney, who he was assistant to at Toronto FC, has said it is the right time for him to be a head coach. His name has been shopped around with a few different clubs. And again, you get back to people that we chat to, Jake, just around the league. A lot of positive things being said for him. He's addressed the club already. That was put up on MLSsoccer.com, and all the right things he's been saying. And so hopefully, finally, have Colorado Rapids found a guy that can carry out what has been called the Rapids way.
Last week was rivalry week in MLS. It was headlined by El Tráfico, LA Galaxy versus LAFC, and it lived up to the hype. A 3-3 draw with the Galaxy taking a 3-1 lead and LAFC coming back.
It keeps living up to the billing every single time when this matchup comes around. 2 goals from Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the first 15 minutes, 4 goals in the first 16 minutes. Carlos Vela, probably the most animated we've seen him when he had a little twinge in his hamstring, and Bob Bradley decided for him to come off. Vela, he's thrown down the captain's armband. He's unhappy. There was just so much to unpack and pull away. And you thought the LA Galaxy on this goal from newly signed Cristhian Paredes made it 3-1. You thought they would pull away. But LAFC, they came back into the thick of things, 3-3. You thought they would go again for 4-3. Wasn't to be, and it wasn't to be for LAFC to beat the Galaxy. They've yet to climb over that obstacle, and LA Galaxy, they still hold the bragging rights.
Another goal, though, from Carlos Vela, who looks on his way to a golden boot. He's still on pace. Well, after the break, we're going to check in with the Portland Thorns, who are riding a 3-game winning streak into the international break this weekend. And also, we'll show you how the Timbers and Atlanta United teamed up to bring youth from both communities together for a special weekend.
Now back to Timbers in 30, presented by AT&T.
The Portland Thorns faced a huge match last weekend. Second place Chicago came into Providence Park. The Thorns were trying to stay atop the NWSL standings and keep control of the NWSL Shield race. There were over 17,000 at Providence Park on Sunday afternoon, and in the 12th minute, great passing in the box. Tobin Heath leaves it for Christine Sinclair. The composure for the finish, her 49th goal as a member of the Portland Thorns. It gives the Thorns a 1-0 lead. 24th minute, Heath goes back post. Haley Rasso's cross comes off Alyssa Nair and is put in by Midge Purse. It is 2-0 Thorns in the 56th minute. Sinclair again, this time off the crossbar. Again, it's Purse to follow it up, to clean it up. She gets her brace. She'd be the NWSL Player of the Week. Thorns win 3-0. They stay atop the NWSL standings heading into this weekend's international break.
This is great timing for a bye week in the sense of where bodies and minds are at. I think we get to recharge, we get to recover, but also focus a little bit on more individual and positional development before we switch focus to Utah next week. And then the other side, obviously, the timing is we're on a great run, and we want to be able to keep that going. And the breakup of the group makes that change. That's the same for everyone.
I mean, I think everyone's super happy with how we've been playing, and we've been really hard to beat, especially here at home. And I think that, I mean, we're never going to settle, and there's definitely things that we want to continue to work on and know we need to work on. But yeah, we just need to keep the momentum going, and we have another away trip coming up, which we haven't had in a while, and I think we're more than ready to take on that challenge.
That challenge, that away trip after the international break next Friday, September 6th, 6:30 start at the Utah Royals. It's a match you can watch on Yahoo Sports. T2 playing at the Las Vegas Lights last weekend. In the first 10 minutes, T2 was knocking on the door. They forced a couple really nice saves out of Las Vegas Lights keeper Thomas Olson, but they could not get on the scoreboard. And just before halftime, Las Vegas would open the scoring. In the 45th minute, the Lights knock it down in the box. Jose Villarreal puts it in. Las Vegas takes a 1-0 lead. T2 would hit the post twice in the second half, but they were unable to find a goal in the match, and they fall 1-0. T2 is back in Nevada this weekend playing at Reno 1868 FC. Kickoff at 7 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+. On the weekend of an MLS Cup rematch, the Portland Timbers and Thorns Stand Together platform teamed up with Atlanta United's Community Outreach Group to put on a special program on leadership. It included teens from both Portland and Atlanta who flew in for the weekend.
We have 20 kids from Atlanta, the West Side community specifically, which is right outside of our stadium, and then some local Portland youth from a couple different of the neighborhood communities around here, coming together for a workshop around leadership and talking through how they can be catalysts for change in their community.
And one of the things that I know that's important for me is always staying curious. So I love looking up, right? I introduced myself to a lot of you, right, when you came in the room. You got to let people know that you are forced to be reckoned with when you come in a room. Crystal Whistle and her team, came up with this idea of Portlanta, right? And so bringing PDX and ATL together, but not just on the pitch, but also in the communities. And so to activate and really encourage young people who are going to be the next leaders in each of the communities to come together and join forces for social impact.
Oftentimes, young people don't get the opportunity to meet others from other states or cities or things and really understand not just their similarities or whatever, but recognize and understand the challenges and obstacles that those kids might have in their communities as well.
It was a really fun time. They asked me a lot of challenging questions about what I thought about my career to this point, if I had any regrets. Don't solely focus on sport. Take care of your grades. Make sure that you're as motivated in school as you are in sports.
This evening, they are being treated to a Thorns versus Washington Spirit game here at the stadium. There's going to be some on-field activation, and tomorrow we're having the teens come back here to the stadium. They're going to have dinner with Thorns forward Simone Charlie.
Playing soccer's kind of opened my eyes to people of so many different cultures and people just with completely different backgrounds than I have. I hope they're able to learn a lot from each other. I think me being from Alabama and being able to talk with the kids, especially from Atlanta, we're just talking about how Portland's so different from what they expected.
1, 2, 3. Keep Portland weird!
40 lucky students are having one special weekend here in Portland tonight. They were on the field during pregame warm-ups. The Portland Timbers are happy to celebrate and honor them.
I'm going to take away that you can always be better than who you were yesterday. It doesn't matter if you have failed yesterday or what you've done yesterday, as long as you improve upon yourself and make yourself better the next day.
Well, coming up after the break, it's MLS Picks, Ross versus a Timbers supporter. I'll tell you about a record-setting performance, season best, when we return.
Now back to Timbers and 30, presented by AT&T.
Well, let's end our show with MLS Picks. You might recall last week, Ross had his worst performance of the season. Just got too. I'm going to big you up right now.
I know where you're going, so that's okay.
We're setting it up. he followed that up spectacularly. 9 of 10, his best performance of the season. Tyler McDonald didn't have much of a chance.
I was so close to being perfect. If it wasn't for Bob Bradley taking off Carlos Vela in the draw with LAFC to LA Galaxy, Vela, I'm sure, would have scored a goal. I would have been a perfect 10 out of 10, so not quite yet a perfect week for me. But that is, I have to say, pretty good.
They've never beaten the Galaxy, LAFC. If you just could have gone with that trend, you would have been in decent shape. Mark Codinho is your opponent this week.
I know Mark quite well. He's been waiting since we started MLS Picks to be able to challenge me. Every week, he's throwing banter at me, and I look at it. He is going to be stressed out for the whole weekend. He's going to grow so many more gray hairs on that big mustache of his with the stress he's going to go through. But he's actually picked quite well. First, before we get into our differences, Colorado at the Red Bulls, Robin Fraser, the newly appointed manager for the Rapids. He was former assistant with the Red Bulls, and so that's going to be an interesting storyline. But you get into where we start to separate ourselves, myself and Mark. New England Revolution, they've only lost once since Bruce Arena took control. And Toronto FC actually benched their star player, Alejandro Pozuelo, last week, Greg Vanny. But it worked out for the manager. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Philadelphia, start of the season, never would you have said that they're the second leading scoring team in the league, better than Atlanta United. So that's a neat matchup. Let's get into Houston Dynamo he's picked. That's the one pick. Mark, what are you going for? Houston Dynamo got lumped last week, 5-1 against FC Dallas in rivalry week. Sporting Kansas City are clinging on to their playoff lives. And then finally, I think Seattle, after their win last week, they'll be feeling good about themselves. LA Galaxy obviously not losing to LAFC. They'll be all right, worth a draw.
Quickly, as we look at Saturday's matchup, Timbers and Real Salt Lake. The Timbers have lost 2 in a row at Providence Park. What do they need to do to get back to winning ways?
For me, it's about the final moments. Final moments defensively, defending crosses and marking players in the box in the area to make sure they pick up. They've conceded 2 goals in their last 3 games at home, so they need to clean things up there. And the final moments going forward, still creating chances, but that final moment has let them down. They take care of both ends. It's 3 points.
You can watch it on Fox 12+. Ross, Nat Borchers, myself will be on the call. You can also listen on the radio, 7:50, the game. We'll talk to you on Saturday night. We'll talk to you next week, right here on Timbers in 30.
Thank you for watching Timbers in 30, presented by AT&T. For more on the club, visit timbers.com.